Good morning, everybody. Again, it's my sort of weekly few minutes little video chat to you. Hope you're doing okay. Hope you're coping in the restrictions, etc., etc. So, just looking at the church's year, we're 40 days from Easter, and so this Thursday we end up at Ascension Day, Ascension time, when Jesus goes to be with his Father in heaven. Now, I should just give notice that there won't be Compline that evening, and that's because if you look on the sort of Facebook or website or whatever, you'll find a link to a special deanery service for Ascension Day. So different churches from the deanery have put in different bits, and it's all been edited together with the bishop preaching. So I hope it all works, and you'll be able to watch that on Ascension Day as a special celebration. But that's what I want to talk about really is Ascension and what it might mean and what it might mean for us. And I want to really just say two things in these few moments. The first one is to think about the last Sunday of the church's year is called Christ the King, when we remember the fact that Jesus is the King. Traditionally, he's identified to have three roles, three offices in our tradition, which is that he's the prophet, the priest, and the king. But particularly on that Sunday, we remember that he is the king. But I remember Bishop Tom Wright, theologian one or two of you may have heard of. And Tom Wright said that the trouble with that is that actually, particularly as the Anglican Church has quite recently adopted that Sunday, there's already a celebration of Christ being the King, which sometimes gets forgotten, and that is Ascension Day. Of course, there's this kind of, it's a bit like a stage direction. Jesus needs to exit the scene. So, he goes from earth to be with the Father. So there is a kind of just, a physical necessity for him to go. But more than that, it is about him going to be with the Father and to remind us that he's been a human being on earth with us, but he is also our God and our King. That's really important to remember. And so we might just think about the kingship of Christ and what that means, particularly in these times when we're thinking of a pandemic that's causing widespread loss of life, a lot of suffering, a lot of hardship, etc., etc. What does it mean when we say that Christ is our King? I mean, more widely, what does it mean to say that God is in charge? Well, it's a difficult one, isn't it? And one that's kind of puzzled theologians over the centuries. Perhaps it's something we just have to keep puzzling and praying about. Because, of course, it's not just in times of pandemic. All through life, God is in charge. He is the Lord of all the universe. And yet that doesn't stop bad things happening. People die of plenty of other things. People are sick and ill, and there are the tragedies. Some of them are caused by human beings, some aren't. But we kind of live in this in-between time where, although God is in charge, his reign hasn't fully begun. We still live in a fallen, compromised world, and perhaps we realize that even more at this present time. So one of the questions that we perhaps ask is, where is God at this time? What is he up to? How much of what is happening is down to him, and how much of it is just part of the natural cycle, a natural course? Those are things that we might think about. And then there's another thing I want to think about at Ascension Tide. So for this, I have a visual aid, which I've just used in a school assembly, but you'll see it's quite a striking one. So I ordered a couple of pieces of furniture a few months ago. I ordered them online, and I got a phone call from the salesperson. I'd already ordered them, and they said, "Oh, you've ordered two things, you get a free gift." I was in a bit of a hurry, and I thought, well, I don't want a free gift, really. I just want what I've asked for. And anyway, it's all right. What are the free gifts? And he gave me 3 or 4 choices. And I said, well, one of them was a clock. So I said, well, yep, I'm always wanting to know what time it is. You never have enough clocks. Send me a clock. That'll be fine. Lovely. Thank you very much. Really must go now. Put the phone down. Didn't think any more about it. Furniture arrived, and so did another big box. I said, what's in the box? And they said, oh, that's your free gift. That's your clock. Anyway, what I hadn't quite realised in my sort of rush to get rid of this slightly pushy salesperson was the scale of the clock. So I've got it here. It's going to be a bit of a stage manoeuvre. You see, this was no ordinary clock. This was absolutely enormous clock. There we are, absolutely huge, absolutely ridiculous. I had to clear an entire wall of stuff to find a place to put this clock on. So there is my big visual aid, the clock, as I say, that I used in school, in a school assembly. And you might think, well, why am I showing you this? Well, because time is a really important thing, and perhaps particularly during these instructions, we've spent a lot of time looking at our clocks, perhaps rather frustratingly, because we've been waiting for things and we're still waiting. And there are things that we wanted to do, people we wanted to see, things that we've wanted to go to, and we've not been able to. And perhaps sometimes we have, as I say, spent quite a long time looking at the clock, waiting for things to perhaps break up our day, or waiting for things, to change, for the restrictions to not be necessary anymore. And of course, I suppose there are other people who are just frantically busy. I mean, probably if you're a doctor or a nurse, you've spent your time looking at the clock, thinking when on earth is this very difficult and busy shift going to end. But whatever, we've probably spent more time being conscious of time than we would normally do. But Ascension time is, of course, the time when Jesus tells his disciples to wait. Tells them not to rush in, not to do anything. But before we get to Pentecost, he says, I want you to spend some time waiting and thinking and praying. Now, we're in lockdown, and they seem to have been a kind of lockdown. It seems they're almost in one room together, we're told, in the upper room, in Acts of the Apostles. So whatever that means, it does mean they're obviously very close together. They weren't out and about. They were together. They spent a lot of time in praying and just waiting for the Spirit to come. So actually, although it might not be much fun in a way, there are lessons to be learned from these restrictions, from this time. There will come a time, just as the Spirit came, that kind of releases them to do stuff that will be released. But until then, let us remember that actually sometimes waiting and praying and just being with God is itself a gift. Maybe a bit like my free gift, not one you particularly want in one sense, but actually growing quite attached to this nice big clock. Don't have an excuse to be late for anything anymore. But there we are. It is rather nice to have the time to wait, to think, and to pray. Thank you. God bless.